take a minute and allow yourself to be fully present in this room, in this space, leaving everything that it took to get here this morning and allowing yourself to be present. And as we take a deep breath, I invite you to affirm this with me. What I know is that God is present in everyone and everything, in every situation and circumstance, in every element of the universe. And that means God is here present. God is everywhere present. Even when it feels like there is an absence of balance and order, there is always balance and order. There is always peace. There is always love. It just sits and waits for us to feel it and recognize it, and we do that now. And I know that each one in this room and each one who ever listens to this service or this prayer is infused with that same breath of life that is affirming, that is joyful, that is energy for us to use. And when I remember that I am connected to that power, I can speak my word, I can affirm things for my life, and I do that here right now. And I affirm that this morning is a blessed morning, that we are all here by divine appointment, that we are here to experience light and love and hugs and community and support, and we are also here to give those things. And so I know that the time that we share together is meaningful. I know that the energy that we infuse into this place is ours to feel and enjoy. And we do that this morning. And so I call a blessing upon this community. And I know that as we go forward, that solutions appear, that resources reveal themselves to us, and that all is well. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak my word. I'm grateful for the knowing that God is all there is. And I'm grateful for each and every person in this room and this spiritual family that we share. I'm so grateful. And I know that wherever those that we love are this morning, they are in their right and perfect place, and that those solutions and ideas and resources also show up for them. So in the one mind, we are all just one. I let go, I let it be, and affirm it with me, and so it is, and so it is. Amen. So that is what I affirm this morning. So on Saturday morning, guess that was yesterday. It's a little bit of a blur, isn't it? What is today? This is the only day that feels like a normal day. This is Sunday. This is what Sunday feels like. Sunday is my fun day. I love that t-shirt. So I'm writing this thing that I'm going to talk about today on yesterday morning. I knew I was preparing for a very different Sunday morning. I knew that we would not have music. I didn't think we were going to have power, but I just thought we've got to come together as a community. If you're watching this some other time, we have a whole YouTube channel of all of our lessons and things. So someday someone might watch this. You might go, what the heck was going on that day? So this is Sunday, and on Wednesday evening, Hurricane Milton came our way and came into our area. And it caused widespread devastation and heartbreak for millions of people. And the tricky part was, it was just on the heels of Hurricane Helene. And so we were just like a little bit overwhelmed by all of the things that happened. I know I'm not alone. And our community, our beautiful spiritual community, was not spared property damage, were we? We were not spared property damage, but we are all physically intact. We're all here. So when the wind stopped blowing and the rain and the debris stopped falling, we were all still here. And most importantly, for me, we were not broken as a community. And our center, thankfully, was not damaged or destroyed. And here we are. Here we are. So to sum it up, and to make some sort of spiritual lesson out of all of this, on the human level, we were each presented with our own unique set of challenges to face and puzzling problems to solve. And some of you experienced devastating loss of homes by flooding, by wind, by all the different things that a storm can bring. And some of you are still sitting in warm homes without power or running water, right? Some of you spent the last few days with a chainsaw or rakes and brooms and all kinds of things, cleaning up property or clearing a path for yourselves to get here, to get wherever you needed to go. And some of you are listening, are far from the Tampa area, still in the place you chose to evacuate to, or you don't live here at all. You're just a part of our community from afar, and we love you for that. And many of you are still somewhere else waiting for secondhand information about your place. Some of you are finally coming back and seeing what your place looks like. But we each have a story to tell about the past 5 days. But what about on the soul level? What about on the soul level? Because as your human brain processed the events around you and your emotions went on the roller coaster that we're still on, and it was a roller coaster of every emotion you can imagine, fear, anxiety. Then there was that determination emotion, like, I'm going to get through this. And then sheer boredom, like, oh, there's no power, I just need to just I don't know what I'm going to do with myself, right? And then there was that overwhelm of gratitude, like, oh gosh, I'm still alive, and my house stood, and that tree didn't fall on me, right? There's that gratitude. There's this roller coaster of emotions, and our brain's going crazy. But what happened on the soul level? What happened deep inside? Your soul was simply peaceful and wildly curious. Your soul only knows connection to Source, to God. Your soul only knows connection to the web of life that includes all human beings. Basically, your soul only knows peace and love and light and balance and joy. That's all your soul knows. I believe your soul has lived so many lifetimes and weathered so many different human experiences, including storms. It knew all of the chaos would settle into order. And that order would return more quickly for you as you came out of hiding and let the love flow in. I bet you could feel your soul kind of waiting there, because it was your inner spirit that led you into prayer for yourself or for others and your loved ones. It was your spirit that encouraged you to let go and just sleep as much as you could. It was that inner wisdom part of you that wanted to step out into nature and feel that wind and witness that rain. How many of you stepped out into it even just for a minute, just to experience it? Yeah. There was something exhilarating about that your soul knew. That was nature. And your soul also is the part of you that drew you out the next morning to go, wow. And that cool air, was there. And there was that moment where you were like, nature is so powerful, and it is such in relationship with me. That was your soul. Your soul responded to the calls for help, and it didn't even wait for the call to start helping. It was your soul that delighted every time your phone lit up with another text from someone in Ohio making sure that you were still here. That's that soul connection, the web of life showing up. The bottom line is that we went through this experience as we do every experience. A mix of that human vulnerability and frailty, and as a spiritual being of light and faith and hope and joy. All experiences that we have both of those elements. We each had moments of each part of us dominating the conversation, the headspace, and the choices. We went in and out of our soul and our fear and our human, all of that. And hopefully we're learning to have more moments where our spiritual highest and best self is driving the car of our lives more and more and more. That's what we're practicing. So here in the month of October, believe it or not, y'all, it's October 13th. We've just slipped halfway through this month just like that, right? And in the month of October, we are supposed to have lessons on the subject of power, believe it or not. I think that's pretty ironic, since we each have had our own experience of power these past few days. Raise your hand if you lost electricity for some part of this week. Right? Keep your hand raised if it was off longer than 24 hours. Longer than 48 hours. Are all you still not raised the fault? If you still have power off, keep your hand raised. Everybody else put your hand down. Okay. So there's a lot of people that still don't have power. And even if you didn't lose power, I know there were a couple people who didn't raise your hands. I would say a naughty word, but I won't. Even if you didn't have a power loss this week, good for you, but you know what that experience is, right? So if we use electricity as an analogy to talk about power with a capital P, it might be helpful. So Ernest Holmes, who founded our philosophy, pointed out that the elements required to access electricity, those elements were available in the universe long before human beings understood how to harness it and use it. Back in biblical times, and who knows, since the beginning of mankind, all the things necessary for electricity were there. Nobody knew how to use it, right? Just because human beings didn't know how to use it didn't mean it didn't exist. Then when all the inventors created all the means to channel electric power into homes, there were people who immediately were like, yes, this is awesome. Run the wire to my house. I want lights in my house. They were on that bandwagon of the electric thing, and they wanted their homes wired up right away. But there were others who were resistant to the idea of this kind of power inside their homes. They were like, no, thank you. I will stick with my gas lantern and my candlesticks. I don't know about this fancy electricity stuff that can probably kill you. Don't bring that anywhere near my house. But over time, the convenience of electricity was so commonplace that every single home in most places in our country, they were all hooked up to the grid, right? And that flow of power is always there. Now, it can be interrupted, can it? It can be interrupted if you don't pay your bill. Yeah, and it can be interrupted by a storm, obviously. And the homeowner can go into their garage or somewhere and flip the big old breaker, gone. No more power in the house. Stops flowing. But when those things happen, there's still electricity available, right? You might not be tapped into it, but it is there. Do you see where I'm going with this? The power of spirit is also available to all of us, and we are learning how to use it. We're all gathered here in this community to learn how to use spiritual power better. And we all know people who are reluctant to claim that they have a need for spiritual power. They're like, no, thank you. I will stick with my atheism or a religion that requires a man of God to give me some access to this kind of power. I don't know about this fancy spiritual power stuff that can probably get you into a lot of trouble with the big man upstairs. Thank you very much. Don't wire me up with that. Now, even though we have spiritual power connected within each of us, we get to decide if we're going to keep paying the bill or staying current, meaning by living in the moment and remembering that spirit is always there in every situation. We get to decide if we're going to walk away from consciousness and throw the whole life breaker off. And we also go through storms of life that disrupt our connection, our knowingness of this power that is there for us. But when those things happen, we are still in the presence. Our soul is always still connected to Source and the power. The question is, are we going to plug into it? And I learned something else about power in this storm. So Terry and I lost power about 6:15 on Wednesday evening, and we didn't get it back until late in the day on Friday.
I think it was 6:16.
6:16. 6:16. So about 36 hours and a minute without electricity. But we limped along without it, didn't we? You know, we grilled food. We had all the lanterns from our wedding were lit up, and, you know, we had places around the house. And our friends brought this big Mama Jama flashlight kind of lanterny thing. We called it a purse lamp because it was shaped like a purse, and you had a little handle and you could carry it around, and it was very bright. And, you know, we quickly ate the ice cream out of the freezer so it wouldn't completely melt because we're not stupid. And so we got around the no power thing. But anyway, at some point, we remembered that our friends who had lived a couple of houses down have a whole house generator. So we took some of our refrigerated stuff down there that we wouldn't be eating immediately to save it. And then our next door neighbors, the very next door people, texted and said, hey, we have a generator. Do you need anything? And we're like, could we possibly put some freezer stuff? Do you have freezer space? And she said, better yet, if you have a long enough power cord, we have a generator on our lanai, and you can run a long cord over there and just you plug it in, and you'll have power to plug in your refrigerator or whatever. So you can bet Terry manifested the longest power cord I've ever seen in my life. With 10 minutes from that text, the refrigerator was plugged in. And we had one of those little things that give you several plugs. It's not a power strip. It's just like a Christmas cord thing. And we put all our phone chargers and so we were fine. The analogy here is this: when you don't have access to your inner power, find someone who does. That goes for electricity and for spiritual power, right? When a storm hits your life, look for those with a generator. They likely have been through similar storms and can know a higher truth for you. They can remind you that your soul is in charge. Your soul is in charge whenever you let it be in charge. And you know who those people are. Look around you. They're in this room and in this community, yes, but they are all around you in the world. They're the solution finders, not the problem pointer-outers. They are the encouragers, not the discouragers. They're the love in action kind of people that have something generating inside of them, and there's more for you. And when you have a strong connection to your own inner confidence, your inner love, your inner magnificence, your inner resourcefulness, your inner spirit, share it. be the generator that others can borrow. Because here's the deal. This power is limitless. And the more you let it flow through you, the deeper your source becomes. Share it, and it expands. Know the truth for someone else, and you know a greater truth for yourself. Love big, and your love grows. That's how power works. Think about it. When you plug something into electricity, whatever is plugged in comes to life. The appliances use the power to create something, like cold air to keep food cold, to animate a toy. You plug a toy in, and it suddenly does something else. You plug a television in, it takes that power and it creates an image for you to look at. Plug a lamp in, it creates light. The power brings a thing to life. It's the same with spiritual power. Plug into your inner source or borrow someone else's until you can grow your own connection to be reliable. Let your faith grow as you have experiences of Spirit working on your behalf, bringing things to life for you. I talk a lot around here about being life-affirming. When you are life-affirming, joy-affirming, peace-affirming, stability-affirming, order-affirming, guess what works with you? Spiritual energy, spiritual power also joins in and brings it to life. You know, I've talked to enough of you over the past 4 or 5 days to know that Spirit has been at work, that power has been playing out in your own life, in your own situations over this past week. You know, my example was the next door neighbors volunteering their generator to save our cold food and our sanity. And I actually could share several more stories, but I want to hear from you. And I want you to hear from each other. It's not just Reverend Laine and all of her whatever she does that makes this stuff work. So the question on the table is, what moments of coincidence happened this week to bless you? You might want to close your eyes. Close your eyes and think about this. What moments of coincidence happened this week to bless you? What quote-unquote angels showed up to help you? How are you in the right place at the right time? How did love show up in your journey this week? Or perhaps what brought a shockwave of gratitude to your soul? So I invite you to stand if you have an example that you would like to share about that spiritual power being present in your life this week. Ruth's got the microphone. Go ahead, Austin. If you want to be on camera, you can come up here. If you don't, you can sit where you are.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just want to say that I would like to introduce you to my battery.
Well, tell us what that meant, Austin.
Ruth had a situation in Pinellas where she wasn't sure she would make it through the flooding. Thankfully, she did because there wasn't near as much flooding. So she came over to our house to be safe and then spent the last several days both setting up and helping clean up the yard and the mess that we had. Yes, we still have a 60-foot monkey puzzle tree that fell down, took out all the power. But like you said, we found other ways to do.
Awesome.
My big moment of immense gratitude was that humongous tree came down into our neighbor's yard across the street and missed their cars by. And part of that miracle was that they normally keep 4 cars parked there. They had moved 2 into the back of the house. Those 2 would have been crushed. And so just as I was going through grief at losing this lush yard, but we still have quite a bit, but the blessing was that, my gosh, nobody else's property was destroyed. So that was my big moment of gratitude.
Thank you, Austin and Susan. Stand up or raise your hand. Jim?
Yeah, this might take a minute. Well, we got flooded in Helene, but when it came time for Milton, it was, oh my God. So we went through a whole lot of effort, reloading and loading trucks, trying to secure the right possessions, and then finally just kind of gave it a Dominus Vobiscum and left. But the night before, we stayed in St. Pete, and I said, well, we'll see if we have trouble getting back. So I'll be doggone. We got up the next morning. We didn't get up as early as I wanted to. Started driving into Tampa on the Gandy Bridge. Well, before we got to the Gandy Bridge, it's not a lot of traffic. This is cool. There was a 7-Eleven on the side pumping gas, no line. Pulled in, topped off the tank, drove into Tampa, said, maybe we ought to get some cash. Drove into the Bank of America, no line, ATM working, got some cash. Got home, talked to my neighbor. Yeah, you can take the truck and the casita out to my place of business out in East Tampa. So we did that. No traffic. Easy ride. Left the stuff, came back, went over to the Sons, did a little bit of stuff. It's like, okay, it's time to evacuate. So we took the scenic route to Wesley Chapel. No traffic. Now, that night we did lose, well, the next night during the storm we did lose power. And a tree actually fell on my truck. But turned out, it punched a hole about this big in the topper, bent the antenna, and that was about all the damage. And it looked like it was going to be marooned there for weeks. Guy drove down the street with a front end loader. You want me to pick that thing up? Picked up the tree. We zipped it out away and went home. Made it back to Tampa, and the lights were off, but there was no water. And there was no wind damage, so things kind of worked out.
And food keeps showing up.
And food keeps showing up, that's right. We hadn't missed a meal yet.
Who else has a Susan? I hope she's telling the story I want her to tell.
I'll tell it. I've got several stories, actually. I live in a high-rise condominium in an evacuation zone, and I decided I was going to stay. And I had and I've been flooding with Debbie and with Helene and having to mop up. So everything was moved. All the rugs were moved. All the furniture was moved. I had towels every place. But my family was hysterical that I was going to stay there by myself and didn't think it was a good idea. And at the last minute, I guess around noon on Wednesday, a friend from my 12-step program called, and he said, I'm babysitting this house, and it has storm shutters, and I'm all alone, and I heard that you're staying. Would you come and stay with me? And I thought, okay, I can do this. So he came, and he has one of those pickup trucks that, it's this high off the ground. So getting me into the truck was the big thing, but so we stayed and went to a really nice house and felt really secure. And as the storm came, he had not seen a big storm before. There was a covered area where we could go outside. So we're outside, and he's filming it, and he's saying, look at that transformer blow. He turned around and he said, isn't this the coolest experience you've ever had? And I thought, okay, that's one way to look at it, So the next day we rode around, did some riding around in the big truck, and he said he wanted to go home to his place in St. Petersburg because it was prone to flooding. And I said, well, I'll go home too, to mine. I said, but I'm afraid to go home because I don't know what I'm going to find. And the electricity's out, and I just got a thing that the elevators aren't working. And so I'm on the 16th floor. He said, Susan, I'm not going to let you walk in there alone. I'll go with you. He said, but I've got bad knees. And I said, well, I've got bad knees too, so we'll go up slowly, you know. But by the time he dropped me off, a neighbor had gone into my unit and said everything was totally dry. Totally dry. I mean, how could this have even happened? The wind came from the back of the building and just didn't hit me at all. So that was, you know, such a blessing. And then I guess the next day, Rebecca was coming to borrow my fan, and I had planned to bring it down 16 floors to her, but I hurt my knee going up the 16 floors. And so I texted her and I said, you can have the fan, but I can't bring it down to you because I'll have to go back up then. And I can make it down, but I can't make it up. And then I gathered up all the towels that I had been using. And I said, you want all these towels? So she took all the towels that weren't wet from my house that I had spread out. And right before she came, she said, I'll come up and get them and walk back down. So this was going to be a big load for her. Right before she came, one elevator started working. And so I was able to take everything down to her and just meet her at the curb and we put it in her car. And I got the rest of the things out of my car that I hadn't been able to carry up, got upstairs, got a notice that the elevator had stopped working. So it was just for Rebecca, that elevator. You know, Spirit was right there knowing where there was a need, and there was really a need, and it was just such a beautiful thing. And I have to say, the day after the hurricane, as I was sitting in my place and I had no water and no electricity, and I didn't know, and no elevators, the gratefulness word for the day came through, and I put this on Facebook, but it was life, an exquisite privilege. And it just hit me that even in the midst of all this, life is such an exquisite privilege. And I just, you know, I kind of teared up when I read that, and I thought, okay, I'm going to make it through. You know, it is an exquisite privilege to be experiencing whatever I'm experiencing in the moment. So.
Thank you, Susan. What a beautiful story. I knew the elevator story.
Yeah.
Who else?
For a moment, but I can't talk for long because I'm going to cry. We all know that. I couldn't imagine going through all of this without Laine and all of you. I didn't know about the elevator thing, but that's beautiful. And I'm learning so many things right now, and it's so overwhelming in so many ways. But even the gratitude has just been so much. I can't even look at all of it. I can't even look at each thing to be grateful for because I am completely surrounded by it right now. And I thank you all so much.
I told Rebecca this morning that, you know, we talk a lot around here about we have to mind our hula hoop. And we often worry about, you know, well, in my hula hoop, things are sort of bad. But when I look at other people's hula hoops, they're in tragedy. And how do I do this? And I explained to her she needed to stay in her own hula hoop and realize that she has drawn with her magnetizing self people to the edge of her hula hoop, or just holding up the edges of her hula hoop. And she doesn't need to worry about anybody else's hula hoop right now. She just needs to focus on her own. So thank you if you're one of those people that have kind of nudged your hula hoop near to each other, and we're holding each other's hula hoops up. So I think that was a beautiful analogy, and was very thankful that it came to me. So you don't have to worry about everybody's hula hoop, because good knows we feel powerless. We feel powerless when we're looking at the whole situation, when we can get it down to our hula hoop and our own spiritual energy and what we can attract to ourselves. We're pretty powerful. So there may be more shares.
How much time do we have? I'll try to make this brief, but I probably won't be able to. But I moved to the area recently for affordability into a travel trailer in an RV park in Suffner. A totally new experience for me. I'd never had one before. And, but anyway, but I was like, okay, got the thing set up. There's 3 slides on it. If you don't know what slides are, they're compartments that come out and give you more space in the trailer. But I'm never going to be moving this again. If I do, it'll be years off. Well, my insurance company had offered with the last storm to move the trailer to safety, because of course that would save them money if it gets obliterated, which we were expecting in the RV park. So I took them up on it, and it was maddening trying to get a hold of them on the phone and get it set up and everything. But anyway, I got the trailer towed to Ocala. They would only take it 100 miles, but I figured that would be better. Let's go north. And then, and it was I worked like 14 hours straight on Monday and 8 on Tuesday before I could leave. There were so many things to do. I had to address every single thing in my home because this thing was, I mean, I've got loose furniture. It's not like everything's nailed down like when you travel in a trailer. So it was so intense for me. And plus I had to think about, if I lose my home, what things to take that are valuable or that I would need for weeks to. So anyway, I have several siblings, all but one's in Orlando, but the rest are all out of state. But one of them found me a campground to go to because I just didn't even have time to do that. I had been preparing for another reason to be able to camp in my car because it's big enough I can sleep in it. So she found one, but because of the previous hurricane, it was pretty far north up into Georgia, but that was okay. So got the trailer towed by on Tuesday. And that was, we couldn't get one of the slides in to get the trailer out, but that was a long story, but we finally did. This blessed tow driver that stuck around to make it happen. And then they took the trailer to Ocala. I went on up north, supposed to be a 5-hour drive. Of course, it was 8, but that was okay. I got to a campground in the dark that I'd never been to, but I found the electrical, so I could hook up. But one of the coincidences was, in order to camp in my car, I had ordered this. It looks like a cooler, but you can plug it in, and it's actually a refrigeration unit. It came right the day that I was packing to leave. I guess I had ordered it. So that was just, of course, divine intervention. So I stayed a few nights at this campground, finally decided to come back when my neighbor told me he had power. So I drove back on Friday, and they were supposed to tow my trailer back. I'm sorry, I got back Thursday night. I took off on Thursday and slept in my car on my spot where my trailer goes. Friday morning, arranged for the trailer to come. Well, the tow company decided to assign the driver to some other assignment, didn't tell me, so there was a 4-hour delay on it. And long story short, I got another driver brought it, but I didn't get it. I'm sitting there all day waiting because there's so much work to do when it gets there for me to be able to get in there and hook everything up. And I hadn't had a shower for 3 days. And so he finally got there. It was late at night. And the biggest part of my story is that I have a young neighbor that moved in next door. He's a first-year college student at a local, he's studying Bible school. He's in the ministry. And he even had friends over, but that young man came over and helped me. And I do not know what I would have done because the slides were stuck. They wouldn't go out. And of course, and everything's furniture. I couldn't go in the house because but anyway, he was such a blessing. And he helped me. There was stuff stuck under one of them, and he actually pushed manually on one of them to get it. And he even had friends over his and he just, and it left me the next day. I'm like, I just am overwhelmed by what would have happened if this kid hadn't been there and been so good-hearted and such an angel. But anyway, I know that was kind of long, and there's even more, but I'm going to stop here.
Thank you. Keith was next.
Yeah, I don't need that. Yeah, so first thing, I'm just amazed how prepared I was, and my generator is still running. So Wednesday, the power goes out, and I went across the street to my neighbor, and she doesn't have electricity, so I brought her over. And speaking of the freezers, fortunately, mine's always empty, so we moved all of her food into my freezer and refrigerator, and which is a blessing because I've had stew and chili and spaghetti, and between moving the cords around from the microwave to the hot plate to the crock pot, and yeah, it's amazing, you know. And I've been hanging out with this 70-something-year-old lady at my house, and we're just chilling out, watching TV and eating good food and playing with the dogs and charging all the neighbors' cell phones, and it's been fantastic. And I finally, because I couldn't get out of my neighborhood until last night, I got out and put some more gas in the truck because I'm taking the truck, fill it up, and then take the gas out of the truck to put into the generator. And yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, I feel unbelievably blessed because I can't comprehend how I was this prepared.
And I really love that you were the generator for other people. That that doesn't make you feel good when you are the person helping.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing, and you're so good at that. Anyone else? Is there anybody else that wants to share after Ruth, or are we going to let it be?
I'll keep it short. I just wanted to express the gratitude, and so I knew that I live in Pinellas Park in a one-story condo in a Zone C, and so there was a mandatory evacuation, and I was like, where am I going to evacuate to? I have plenty of choices. It's not that. It's just that I wasn't sure, and then I just said a little prayer, like, okay, higher power, where am I supposed to go? And an hour later, Susan called me and said, would you like to, Austin's flying back because they were in Michigan visiting Susan's sister, and she said, would you like to stay at our house? And I'm staying here, but Austin's flying back. And I was like, okay. So I took that as a sign, and I'm very grateful. And so I went over there and stayed at their house. And Austin and I spent about 2 days preparing for the storm. And we were there together when the storm hit, and we heard some thumps and thuds and various things, but we were okay. And the next day, the next time that I truly felt the gratitude was when we went outside in the morning and looked at the damage, because this huge, heavy tree had fallen right across the road onto the power lines across the street. We had no power, of course, but that could have, killed us if it had flown the other way. And so I was extremely grateful. And then the next thing was Austin has a generator. And so, boy, I would tell you what, I was feeling grateful to be able to do normal things that a lot of other people in the area couldn't do. And then finally, I was around looking for gas, those last couple of days, because everything was shut down around the area, and I'd driven all over the place and trying to find gas for the generator. And also my car was getting a little low. So my power came back on. I didn't find any, by the way. My power came back on in the condo, so I went home yesterday, and I was worried about two things. Number one, I was worried about internet because I have to go to work tomorrow, and my students are coming back after having evacuated campus, and I needed to communicate with them. And I posted on the members page asking, does anybody have internet? And Erin, I didn't know your story then, but my goodness, she volunteered. She says, hey, you can come over to my place. She says, I have electricity and power. And by that time I had come home and my internet was back on. But I want to thank you profusely for that offer. It means a lot to me, and thank them profusely. I didn't have to be alone, and I was just could be of help as well. Lastly, the gas thing. this morning, I didn't expect to be able to get gas at all because yesterday when I came through my area, nothing was open. Sure enough, I'm on my way here, and I see that the Wawa has gas and not a long line right in there, and got a full tank of gas, so now I'm not worried about getting to work tomorrow. So I'm a lot of really universe things. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
So the practitioners and I have this little 4-letter thing that we put on our text feed that says TSRW, and it means this stuff, and we do say stuff. This stuff really works. This stuff works. The power of the universe is a good power, and we can use it, and it can use us. And I don't know how these experiences will bless our spiritual community, but they will. They will. I don't know what changes will come from our individual personal growth and spiritual growth that occurs from these kinds of big moments of gratitude. I don't know what changes will come, but they will come. And we are better from having had these days of sharing our power. It's just a fact. So I'll leave the offering basket here, but I want to share some cool news with you. Hearing about the stressors to our community, ministers have been reaching out, and I shared this with the board yesterday. As of today, we've received nearly $4,000 from other centers and ministers to help stabilize our community. So just know that your donations are being met and blessed with other energy flowing into our community to support us. So if you give I'll have Keith put the offering basket out there in the fellowship hall. Thank you for your generosity, but please find a prayer card. Put a prayer request if you still have needs that aren't met, or you have overwhelming gratitude that you want the practitioners and I to join with you in that flow. Do that. Put those in the offering basket as well. The only announcement I have is that it is my intention to start class Wednesday night. There is a QR code somewhere in the building for registration. Please register so we know how many copies to get of the workbooks and things. But we will start Wednesday night. If for any reason we decide to push it one more week, I don't want to. I want to get going. I want to keep going and learning with y'all. I will email everybody. As long as power stays on here, we should be good. If there is nothing else, what I would like for us to do is to form a circle. And Ellen has brought her guitar so we can sing I Am So Blessed. But I want us to hold hands as we sing it. And we'll sing it one time through I Am So Blessed. And then I want to sing We Are So Blessed. And then we'll come back to I Am So Blessed. And I'll stay here. It's a very simple song. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. Let's do we.